Welcome to the deep dive. If you've ever felt like you're just swimming in this sea of self-help books, spiritual advice, trying to find that one thing, well, you're definitely not alone.
Oh, absolutely. The information overload is real.
Right. So today we're diving into something pretty special, the Book of Secrets. It's this collection of ancient meditation techniques, but with commentary from Osho, which definitely adds a unique spin.
Very unique, yes.
Yeah.
Often provocative.
Exactly. And our mission here isn't just to give you a summary. We really want to pull out the nuggets, the core ideas from these often, let's be honest, kind of misunderstood pathways and see how they might actually, impact your life.
Make them accessible.
Yeah, make them accessible and maybe even actionable. So let's get into it.
Well, what's fascinating about this source material is you've got 112 different methods, and they're incredibly concise, just 2 lines each, supposedly.
2 lines, that's it.
That's the claim. And Osho stresses they're not for some, elite group. They're meant for the whole humanity. But the key thing, and this is crucial, isn't to try and master all 112.
Right, that would be overwhelming.
Totally. It's about finding the one, or maybe a couple, that just strike you, that resonate deep down. It's very personal. And to even get there, he says you've got to sort of put aside what you think you know.
Like mental baggage.
Pretty much. He calls past knowledge dust gathered on the road. It can actually block understanding these techniques if you come at them with too many preconceptions.
Okay, so clearing the slate, that makes sense. And once you do that, you can really grapple with Osho's, quite radical idea about the mind itself.
Which is?
That the mind isn't just something that gets sick sometimes, but that it can be the actual disease.
The source of the problem.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. Our minds are never still, are they? It's this constant process, always moving, jumping from here to there. He uses that term, the monkey mind.
Always restless, seeking the next thing.
Exactly. And it's that endless, unfocused chatter that he points to as a root cause of, a lot of our unease.
And it goes deeper, doesn't it? This constant mental noise, if we don't examine it, leads us to build up what Osho calls a false identity.
How so?
We start identifying with the chatter, with the thoughts, the worries, the opinions, and we end up living a life that's just like a deep sleep, a dream.
Not literally sleeping, but unaware.
Unaware, exactly. Going through the motions like a kind of robot self, doing things in spite of yourself without real conscious presence, just acting out patterns.
So you mistake the programming for the real you.
Precisely. That automatic living, identifying with this false personality, that's the basic error he talks about. It keeps us trapped.
Okay, so if the mind can be the disease and we build these false identities, what's the alternative? This is where Tantra comes in, right? And it sounds quite different from other paths.
Very different, especially compared to, say, some schools of yoga. Yoga often works with duality.
Good versus bad, spirit versus body.
Kind of. There's often an element of negation, trying to suppress desires, control the body, overcome the lower self to reach something higher.
Right.
Tantra flips that script. It's about affirmation. Its core is radical acceptance. It says, accept whatsoever you are. Full stop.
Wow. So no fighting yourself.
None. It embraces everything. It even sees the very world as nirvana and the very body as a temple. It doesn't deny any part of experience.
But what about the bad stuff? Anger, greed, jealousy. How does Tantra handle that if it just accepts everything?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's where Tantra's non-condemnation is key. It doesn't label things evil or impure and then try to fight them. Fighting just gives them energy.
Okay.
Instead, it seeks to understand the energy behind those states. And here's the really challenging but powerful idea. Acceptance becomes transformation.
Acceptance transforms it.
Yeah. It's not passive resignation. It's fully seeing that energy, say, anger without judgment, acknowledging it completely. When you do that, the energy doesn't get stuck and explode. It shifts. It flows. The resistance is what causes the problem.
So the blockage is the issue, not the energy itself.
Exactly. That's why the Source says the danger is not in Tantra, it is in you. Meaning our conditioning to fight, to judge, to resist, that's the danger, not the acceptance Tantra proposes.
Okay, that's a huge shift in perspective. Acceptance is the pathway. So how do we start applying this? How do we get back to that center beyond the monkey mind?
Well, many techniques start with something incredibly fundamental, the breath.
Simple but profound.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Osho calls breath the bridge, connecting you to, everything, to the universe. It's constant. It's right here. And significantly, the first 9 techniques in the book are all about breath.
9 variations just on breathing.
Yeah, focusing on different aspects.
Okay.
And one really fascinating focus is the gap between breaths. That tiny pause, that moment of no breathing. The Source says in that gap, you are not in the world. Not literally gone, but momentarily outside the usual stream of thought.
Like a mini reset.
You could see it that way. Tantra views it even more deeply. Each outgoing breath is a death, and each new breath is a rebirth, a constant cycle.
Letting go, receiving anew.
Precisely. And Shiva, who's considered the source of these techniques, says that just keenly observing that gap, that moment of stillness, leads to beneficence, ultimate well-being. Nothing more is needed.
Wow. Just from watching the breath gap? Okay.
Sure.
What else? I know Gurdjieff used a technique called stop. Does that relate?
It does, and it's mentioned here too. The idea is simple but powerful. Suddenly, consciously stop whatever you're doing.
Mid-step, mid-sentence.
Exactly. Walking, talking, reaching for something. Even a habitual thought. That sudden halt redirects the energy. Instead of flowing outwards, it turns inward.
You feel it rush back in.
You become intensely aware. The advice is to start small with easier things, physical actions. Then you can try it with more subtle impulses like stopping the surge of anger before it takes over, or even sexual energy.
Redirecting that raw power. That's intense.
It is, and it connects beautifully to another practice, self-remembering.
Which is?
Simply trying to maintain the awareness I am while doing everyday things, singing, seeing, tasting, working, whatever. Just remembering your own presence.
Sounds simple, but probably incredibly difficult.
Oh, definitely. The Source mentions Gurdjieff students trying this constantly for months. It's related to Ramana Maharshi's Who Am I inquiry.
Ah, the self-inquiry.
Right, where you keep asking, who am I? But you don't accept any mental answer, I am my thoughts, I am my job. You keep probing until the mind just stops. No answer will come. And in that silence, the real I might reveal itself.
Beyond concepts. Okay, there are also techniques about shifting perception, right? Like focusing on pain.
Yes, that's a fascinating one. You concentrate totally on a physical pain. Not fighting it, just observing it intensely.
What happened?
The sources say the pain starts shrinking, becomes a tiny point, and then, poof, it disappears, replaced by bliss. The insight, you are not the body. The pain was a sensation you were identified with.
That's radical. What about looking at empty space?
Similar idea, shifting focus, staring into something boundless like the blue sky or a deep well, or even closing off the senses, the 7 openings of the head, like in Shanmukhi Mudra, blocking eyes, ears, etc.
Why do that?
It makes the external senses feel futile. It withdraws your attention inward so intensely that your inner space becomes all this space. The boundary dissolves.
Inner and outer merge, and there's one about inner sounds.
Yes. Hearing the sound of sounds,
Yeah.
This involves certain yogic practices like mula bandha, pulling up the rectum to redirect energy, and putting fingers in your ears.
To block out noise.
Partly, but more to tune in, to hear the subtle, underlying vibration of existence, like an inner hum or ringing that's always there beneath the mental noise.
The nada sound.
Could be related, yes. When you really connect with this sound of sounds, the mind apparently just stops. Thoughts cease, deep quiet.
These are some powerful, almost counterintuitive methods. Let's shift gears slightly and talk about how Tantra views, well, some really potent life energies. Starting with sex, that's often a tricky subject.
Definitely. And Tantra's view is quite unique. It fundamentally states that life is sex energy. It's the basic creative force.
The drive behind everything.
Pretty much. So instead of suppressing it or feeling guilty, Tantra encourages embracing the sex act as holy, even meditative.
Holy, meditative, that's not how most people think of it.
Exactly. The key insight is that sex is the source of creativity. Unlike anger or fear, which can be destructive, sex energy creates. It has huge potential.
So how do you tap into that potential without just, indulgence?
It's about presence and awareness, forgiveness of inhibitions, dropping the guilt, and being totally involved. When it's approached consciously, without judgment, it's not just a physical release. It can lead to deep relaxation, connection, even transcendence. The energy moves beyond the purely physical.
Conscious engagement, not suppression or mindless indulgence. Okay.
Yeah, it's a complete reframe. And speaking of reframing, the sources talk about our lives often being like a psychodrama.
Like we're acting out roles.
Unconsciously, yes. Driven by old scripts, reacting in predictable ways. The suggestion is to look upon this so-called universe as a juggling, a picture show, a myth, a story.
See it as less solid, less real.
less personally real, perhaps.
Mm.
Osho suggests unhappiness comes from too much seriousness, from getting totally caught up in these dramas and roles. If you can see life as a long drama, yourself as an actor, it can help break that identification.
Step back and observe the play instead of being lost in it.
Exactly. It frees you up.
But how do you get that distance? How do you stop identifying?
It circles back to that core idea: authenticity and non-judgment. Realizing that all distinctions are man-created. Good, bad, pure, impure. These are labels we impose.
Mental constructs.
Right. And someone who's internally divided by these labels cannot be at peace. So again, acceptance becomes transformation.
So with anger or greed, instead of fighting it,
You consider it, look at it in its total nakedness. Face it without judgment, just witness it. Pure awareness, Osho says, dissolves these negative states because they feed on resistance. But that same awareness deepens positive qualities, making them stable part of you.
awareness dissolves the negative, deepens the positive. Interesting. Okay, let's tackle the biggest one, death.
Ah, yes. The ultimate taboo for many.
The sources say something quite striking. All religion, all philosophy, all tantra and yoga is basically death-oriented. What does that mean?
It's not about being morbid. It's about recognizing that truly facing our mortality is what distinguishes conscious human awareness. Osho suggests that until you encounter death consciously, you're living more like an animal, driven by instinct and fear, unaware.
So confronting death makes you truly human, truly aware.
That's the idea. And it leads to this paradox. The more you cling to life, the more you will die.
Cling tighter, lose it faster.
In a sense, you die to the present moment by fearing the future loss. But the more you are ready to die, then the more you become deathless.
How does being ready to die make you deathless?
It's about dying to the illusion, the ego, the false self, the fear. When you let go of desperately clinging to what's temporary anyway, you connect with a part of you that isn't temporary, the deathless within.
The witness, pure consciousness.
That which observes, yes. It relates to Buddha's concept of nirvana. It might sound death-like or negative, like an extinguishing, but it actually points to ultimate freedom from the cycle of fear and clinging. It's the death of illusion.
Which leads to real life, ironically.
An awakened, deathless existence, yes.
So, wrapping this all up, for someone listening, trying to make sense of their own path, what's the big takeaway from all these techniques and ideas?
I think the core message is surprisingly simple, almost revolutionary. It's not about adding something you lack. It's not about striving to become something you're not.
Which is what most self-help implies, right? Fix yourself, improve yourself.
Exactly. But these sources say you're already there. You are as perfect as possible right now. That which is to be attained is already attained. It's already within you.
So the work isn't acquisition, it's excavation, removal.
Beautifully put. It's about removing the barriers that you yourself have constructed, the conditioning, the false identities, the mental noise. The goal isn't some far-off enlightenment. It's simply to live with reality, to be present now.
When the mind's interference settles down, you just are.
You just are, fully here.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you to ponder. If, as the source suggests, much of our life is lived like a deep sleep, a dream, because we forget ourselves, we identify with the mind, what would it actually mean for you to wake up? Even for a moment. What might change if you experienced just one moment of authentic presence, truly being here and now? How might that shift how you see the world, how you relate to others, and fundamentally who you understand yourself to be?
Beyond the story, beyond the role.
Yeah, something to perhaps explore today. What does being present reveal?